Barakatuh. I hope everyone, inshallah, had a good suhoor and are looking forward to praying fajr and starting off the day strong. So today, inshallah, following the theme of reflecting on lessons in the book Living as a Muslim, one of the next principles that the author discusses when navigating through this process of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and living in this world as the ideal Muslim to not only achieve success in the dunya but also success in the akhirah. One of the biggest principles that the author discusses is the importance of reciting and learning the Quran, right? The importance of establishing a connection with the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to establish a further connection and a stronger connection with our Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Prophet Muhammad says in a hadith narrated in the book of Bukhari, the best of you are those who learn the Quran and teach it. Further, the Prophet Muhammad also says, why do you not go to the mosque and learn to recite 2 verses of the Quran? For this is better for you than 2 camels. 3 verses are better than 3 camels, 4 verses better than 4 camels, and so on. The Prophet Muhammad here is relating the reward of reciting even just portions of the Quran, right? It's not even the Prophet Muhammad here isn't telling us that you get this reward when you read the entire Quran, or you get this reward when you memorize the whole Quran. The Prophet Muhammad is highlighting even the benefits of reading small portions of the Quran. And he's comparing it to something that the Arabs at the time would understand. The Arabs at the time, and a lot of people at that time, what they valued most and what was most important to them in their lives were their riding animals, right? That was extremely staple and important to their way of life. And a lot of the things that they did when it came to trading, when it came to even just normal living errands depended on them having reliable riding animals, right? So this is something that were extremely valuable. And the best of those riding animals to the Arabs at the times were camels. So the Prophet Muhammad using this example to highlight to them the benefit of or the benefit of reading the Quran, what the reward actually means. He's quantifying in a way that the people understood. Now obviously we can't really compare the Quran to camels. We can't even compare the Quran to the expansiveness of the universe, right? The Quran is that special and it's that significant, right? Because it is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the Prophet ﷺ is telling us that there is so much reward in just reading a verse or even 2 verses of the Quran that he questions our reasoning for not running and striving for this. Why aren't we going if we understood this type of reward? He's essentially saying we'd be rushing to do this. We'd be rushing to read these verses. And just to try to put this in context that we might understand, this is a simple example that I brought up, right? So on the screen is currently the most expensive car in the world, right? This car's value was at $12.5 million, and it was actually sold to someone for $18.7 million, right? So this is currently the most expensive car that has ever been sold. So considering that the Prophet Muhammad SAW had related verses to a very sought after and valuable riding animal, I thought it would be fit to try to contextualize that with a very sought after and valuable car. So the Prophet Muhammad SAW said that reading 1 verse was the equivalent of 1 camel, and 2 verses the equivalent of 2 camels, and 3 verses the equivalent of 3 camels, and 4 verses the equivalent of 4 camels. So considering that there are 6,236 verses in the Quran, if you were to complete one reading of the entire Quran, it's as if you had 6,236 of this vehicle, right? And of course, the reward of reading the Quran isn't even close to this, right? It's far greater than this. This is just an example that the Prophet Muslim used, an example that I'm contextualizing in more modern times for us to understand the value and the reward of reading the Quran. Even numbers such as this, right? So if you were to take the value of this vehicle, $18.7 million, and were to multiply that by 6,236, even that becomes something that, even in our own real world example, becomes very difficult to comprehend. And that's the power of reading the Quran. There's so much reward in reading the Quran. Furthermore, the Prophet Muhammad SAW says that he who recites the Quran well and clearly is equal in rank to, in honored equal in rank to the honored and pure angels who record creation's deeds, right? So that in of itself is amazing, that the Prophet Muhammad is equating someone who reads the Quran clearly, someone who reads the Quran properly, to the angels who record our deeds, right? That is such a powerful rank, and that is such an honorable rank to be given, and to be compared to the angels in that sense is truly a blessing. But the real beauty of this hadith is when next, where the Prophet Muhammad SAW says that he who recites and finds difficulty in reciting the Quran will obtain double reward, right? The Prophet Muhammad SAW is basically highlighting that, and this is a consistent theme with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala mainly cares about our effort, right? So here, this we're essentially being told that it doesn't matter if you can recite beautifully or not. It doesn't matter if you can read fluidly or not. Even if you have difficulty reading, even if you have difficulty reading the Arabic language, it takes you some time to even read through maybe one or two verses. The Prophet Muhammad SAW is saying that it is worth it to even try and build that relationship with the Quran, because if you do and you take that step, you will be given double the reward for even trying. Because the whole purpose here is not just reading the Quran for the sake of reading it, but reading it to build a genuine relationship with the Quran, right? So someone who, even if they struggle to recite, if they don't get discouraged, but they instead tell themselves that I'm going to read the Quran to establish a relationship. I'm going to read the Quran because it is a form of dhikr, and it is a form of remembering my Lord. Then they'll be rewarded for that effort, no matter how difficult it is to get through the Quran. So this should be used as a point of motivation for all of us. That whatever level you might be at when it comes to reading or reciting or even memorizing the Quran, it doesn't necessarily matter. The only thing that matters is if you try to establish that connection. If you give the Quran the due time that it deserves, and you put in whatever effort that you can, right? Every single person is at different levels. That even comes to the relationship of the Quran. But in context of even the previous hadith discussed and this current hadith, it doesn't matter how much you're doing, right? The quantity here doesn't matter, it's the quality. And quality in the sense of your sincerity and your willingness to establish that relationship with the Quran, regardless of what that means. If it just means memorizing it, if it just means reciting it, if it just means memorizing it, if it just means listening to it, the only thing that matters here is establishing a relationship with the Quran. And now, if we take this into context, right, and we use our previous examples, so here the Prophet Muhammad SAW is saying that whoever recites the Quran and finds it difficult, right, who struggles to maybe read the words, struggles to put the sounds together, they'll receive double reward. So taking that into context, right, our previous example, we before we're able to multiply this by 6,236, right, for every single verse that's in the Quran for you to read it. But not considering if you had difficulty and get double the reward, it's now this vehicle times 12,472. And this, the previous example in of itself was extremely difficult to mentally comprehend. This in of itself, I mean, if you even try to do the math, who knows what that number could possibly go to, right? It's a little too early for me to try to do that. But even just a simple example of this, and again, the reward of reciting the Quran doesn't even, you don't even scratch the surface when it comes to something like this. But it's just an example to kind of get our minds thinking of the simple but oh so powerful act that we're missing out on, that if we just try to maybe even be reading a verse a day, something that we can very easily be a part of. And with that, we'll take a brief pause for a video that MCMC would like to play.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His beloved book, "And hold fast altogether to the rope of Allah, and be not divided among yourselves." Ramadan is a month of worship, a month of growth, and a month where we all come together as a community. During this uncertain and stressful time, our centers may be empty, but our hearts are full. We are still connected as a community through our memories, our prayers, and our bond as brothers and sisters. This Ramadan, while we worship at home, let us continue to support the growth of our community center, MCMC. Now, more than ever, our institution needs us. It is time to come together. Support your masjid. Donate today.
Social distancing will change significantly how Muslims observe the holy month. Shut down mosques mean the faithful will no longer be able to gather together to engage in nightly prayer and to break fast at sunset. Those that rely on the food they receive at the mosque to break fast will also suffer.
Heading into work today. And it just hit me. I miss you. MCMC to me has always been my home away from home. It's the place where my love of Islam grew. It's the place that when I was at Rutgers and there was stress of work and stress of school, I could always rely on MCMC to be that place to give me a sense of peace, a sense of sukoon. And so with Ramadan coming in just a few days, it's hitting me that I miss my community more than ever. The iftars, the tarawih, the jummas, the lectures. Ramadan is a reminder of what community means, and MCMC has been the setting of that for so many reasons. So I was thinking, why shouldn't that still be the case? Why can't we make this the best Ramadan yet? Go to mcmcnj.org to learn how we'll do it. Every day, a reminder of what we stand for and an adhan to break our fast with, live on YouTube and Facebook. This Ramadan, let's have iftar together.
So inshallah, the last hadith that I wanted to share, before we discussed the reward of the Quran when it comes to reading it in this world, right? But now what I wanted to discuss is the reward of the Quran, when the reward you get for reciting and memorizing the Quran in the hereafter. So the first hadith I want to talk about is where the Prophet Muhammad SAW says that continue reciting the Quran because on the day of judgment it will appear as an intercessor for the reciter. That in of itself is one extremely uh, mind opening when it comes to the power and the beauty of reciting the Quran. That all the rewards that we get in this world are perfect and beautiful and fine, but that in of itself, that the Quran itself, that the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? That the words of Allah, that this book of guidance will come and will be an intercessor for you on the day of judgment. That it's already amazing enough that the Prophet Muhammad SAW will himself stand up as an intercessor for his ummah. But not only can you be blessed with having the Prophet Muhammad SAW intercede for you, you can also have the Holy Quran, the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, also intercede for you. And how better of a lawyer, how better of someone getting your back, or someone, you know, defending you on the day of judgment than having the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the Quran. Furthermore, the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says that on the day of judgment, the Quran will petition Allah to cloak the one who has recited it. Thus will be cloaked with garments of honor and respect. So the Quran itself will petition for you on your behalf to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? It will bring up this argument, it will bring up this case on your behalf to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you to be cloaked, for you to be covered, right? For you to be adorned on this day, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant that. Then a crown of honor will be placed on the head of the reciter. Subsequently, the Quran will petition Allah to shower His pleasure on the reciter, and Allah then will become pleased with him. Afterward, the reciter will be asked to recite the Quran, thereby attaining higher ranks of elevation. In reward for each verse, a good deed will accrue to him. So again, what's being highlighted is just the benefit of having this relationship with the Quran, not only in this world, right? So yes, we get the rewards for every single verse, and the abundant amount of reward in this world, but the reward that we get in the hereafter is infinitely even greater. That the Quran itself will be interceding for you. The Quran itself will be petitioning on your behalf to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and because of your relationship with the Quran, you'll be given cloaks, and you'll be given crowns, and and your recitation will be honored, in the sense that whatever you have to recite, that will essentially be raising you in your ranks in Jannah, right? So as you keep reciting, you'll be raising higher and higher and higher. Your level in Jannah will be increasing until you stop, which is further encouragement, one, to try to memorize and recite as much of the Quran as possible, but also speaks to the fact that even if you have a little bit of the Quran retained in your heart, even that little bit will be rewarded. Obviously, what's being encouraged here is to try as much as possible. But again, it's always back to that theme of quality over quantity. How much of a genuine relationship do you have with the Quran? What parts of the Quran were able to impact you the most? And what parts of it were you able to act on the most when it comes to this ultimate form of the good? And with that, I'll conclude. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to become closer to the Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to become people of the Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to benefit and shower us with the reward that comes from reading the Quran. And may the Quran stand as the intercessor for all of us on the day of judgment. جزاك الله خيرا والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح بكم الله أكبر الله أكبر لا